Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video. I'm going to be talking about some newly kind of announced, rumored Transformers Studio Series figures. So these are all rumored. We don't have any official images of the figures, of course, but we do have a list of a new assortment of Studio Series figures. Normally, and I think that most of these were kind of brought up in the Walmart system, which has happened before for Studio Series figures, and they typically seem to be accurate. Once they're pretty much kind of leaked through a store system, they seem to be pretty accurate, at least in the past. So I would be almost 100% confident that these are actually figures that are coming out. And yeah, let's get talking about them. It's an interesting assortment. There is actually a couple of Transformers movie figures in this assortment that aren't from the Michael Bay nor the Travis Knight series. So it is quite interesting that they're expanding the horizon a little bit. So just a quick overview of kind of the stuff we're going to be talking about. Here's basically all the reviews, but we will go through it, character and figure by figure. So the first is Revenge of the Fallen Bumblebee with Sam. This is an interesting one. We've received so many Bumblebee figures, and also a lot in the Studio Series too. It's not like the Studio Series really hasn't done many Bumblebees. They've done a ton. It's interesting that they're pumping out yet another one. I guess the Studio Series has not specifically done a Revenge of the Fallen one. We have had, regular Bumblebee. We've had a few from the Bumblebee movie, but I guess there hasn't been a Revenge of the Fallen Studio Series Bumblebee. It'll probably be very similar to the previous Studio Series Bumblebees, though. Nothing too exciting. The only thing that I find interesting is the Sam figure. I'm actually curious to see what that looks like, if it'll be very much in line with the Human Alliance Sam that, the only other Sam Witwicky figure that has ever come out, basically. So I'll be interested to see what that figure looks like. If it's actually kind of a cool looking little figure that is in a decent scale, it might be fun, but I probably won't get this. But just to specifically see the Sam figure, I'm interested in seeing this figure overall. Next up, we have one that I think a lot of people are going to be very excited about, and that's Dino from Dark of the Moon, or Mirage is which is what he was originally going to be called, but they did switch it to Dino there at the last minute. This is a character that always looked really cool. He had a really neat design, turned into a very cool alt mode being a Ferrari, but never actually got a figure. They released a really cheap, kind of figure, but it was basically just a sideways figure, but with an actual Dino head sculpt. And that really didn't do too much. I did get that one though, just because I wanted a Dino in my collection. And then about a year ago, a third-party company did a Dino in the same scale as your regular Transformers figures from Hasbro. That was like perfect. It looks great. It's a perfect representation of Dino, and it's a great size. I did get that one, and I'm very happy with it. I think it's an awesome Dino for my collection. However, getting an official one from Hasbro will be very cool. I'll be very interested to see what it looks like. Also, that third-party figure, I'm trying to think if it transforms, and I'm surprised that I actually can't know for sure in my head. I don't think it transforms. So to get a transforming, version of Dino would be very cool as well. This is probably the one I'm most looking forward to of all of these figures. To be honest, for my personal taste, none of these figures just really excite the hell out of me, but none of them are terrible, so they're all pretty much just in an okay kind of level here. Let's move on. Alright, next up we have Sideswipe, another version of Sideswipe. We did already receive a Studio Series version for Dark of the Moon. This will specifically be Revenge of the Fallen, though. So very few tweaks. Who knows how much different it will be from the last figure, or, kind of if they're actually going to resculpt it. I mean, they'll have to resculpt it to a certain degree so that the alt mode isn't convertible, because in Dark of the Moon, Sideswipe's alt mode is a Corvette that's a convertible, while in Revenge of the Fallen, it's the same Corvette, but it's just not a convertible. So that will be one difference. So the back paneling will definitely be different. I'll be interested to see if they change it up much. I'd love a really cool chromish paint job. I think that would be awesome. I'm not holding out hopes for that, though. Sideswipe's an interesting one for me because the Sideswipe that they actually released for Revenge of the Fallen was just fantastic. And then they did one in a kind of sub-series a few months or maybe even a year later that had some red highlights on him, but with guns, and that was a great figure as well. And then I do have the Dark of the Moon one, which is less great, but the Sideswipe figures that have come out before have been so good, I haven't had a real need to get a new one, to be honest. Now, looking at this one in package here from Studio Series, the one that previously came out, it actually does look pretty neat. I'm almost tempted to get it, but it's just, I have versions that are, I would say, better looking. So who knows? I'll be interested to see how much different this one is, though, than their Dark of the Moon one, which has just come out, you know, not that long ago. Whoa, okay. That really flew by. All right, next up is Jolt. This is one that I'm somewhat interested in. Jolt never really excited me in the movies, and not just because he doesn't have much screen time, because, you know, Dino and even Sideswipe don't have much screen time either, but just his overall design is just okay. I think that it's a little more plain than most of the Autobots, but a new figure of him will be quite interesting. The figure that was released for Jolt for Revenge of the Fallen as well as for Dark of the Moon, I do have both of those, and they're pretty good figures, so it's not a figure, or it's not a character that I'm like, yes, we need a new version, because I just don't think we really do. It's a character that I don't think anybody is truly in love with, and it's not even like Dino where there's no figures of him. There's a couple different Jolt figures, so personally not too excited, but I'll be interested to see how it looks. And then next up and lastly for the live action movies, we have Grindr. So this is, you know, basically Blackout, but from Revenge of the Fallen. If you didn't, are every single one of these? Oh no, Dino's Dark of the Moon, but almost all the other ones are Revenge of the Fallen. It's interesting how much they're leaning into Revenge of the Fallen. But essentially it's just going to be a repaint of the Blackout figure. Grindr, although, you know, because Blackout obviously dies in Transformers 1, and then he's magically in Transformers 2, it's just kind of Michael Bay's laziness and recycling designs. So it's, you know, but they slapped a new name on him for figure purposes. Apparently, I don't know, whenever I watch Revenge of the Fallen and when I look at pictures of Grindr in the film, he looks like he's the same color as Blackout, you know, that kind of really light blue. But the Grindr figure that has come out in the past was more of just kind of a cream white, so I assume that that's what they'll do here, just kind of make it a more cream white. The only real interesting thing with this figure is that he's going to come with a little Ravage instead of the Scorponok that came with Blackout, so it doesn't make much sense that Grindr would come with Ravage, but hey, you know, I'll take it. I think that Ravage should be packaged with the Revenge of the Fallen Soundwave that's coming out. I think that would be more appropriate, but nonetheless, it'll, you know, be a nice little addition. I'll be interested to see how much, if it is kind of going to be like a minifigure that has some decent articulation, or if it's going to be just kind of a statue piece. So I'm pretty interested to see kind of Ravage and Sam Witwicky, the side character accessories. I'll be interested to see kind of how good they are, or if they're just as plain as ever, you know. So it'll be interesting to see. Lastly, we have two figures, the Sharkicons, I forget what, Grawl, something like that is the name of one of them, but that's going to be one of the figures in this wave, as well as a Grimlock that comes with Wheelie, which I think is cool as well. So the reason that they're doing this, and it fits because the Studio Series is meant for movie figures, and this is from a Transformers movie, albeit animated rather than live action, but it's also the 35th anniversary next year of the movie, so I think it's pretty fitting that they'll start introducing some animated characters in the series. It doesn't bother me too much. I prefer, you know, movie figures, so of course I'd hate for them to really go into the animated series and you know, stop making movie figures very much. But if they want to do some animated with the movie line, I'm totally fine with that. And I think that these are neat ones to start off with, and they're kind of ones that go together, obviously, with this scene here. So I think that's quite cool. So I'll be interested to see how those figures look. And then as far as the movie figures, it's a bit of a boring assortment, to be honest. I think that Grindr is just a really basic repaint, nothing too special. Jolt is a figure that, you know, hasn't been done in a while, but he's not one that I think a lot of people are really clamoring for. Sideswipe, which we've had a bunch of figures for, and one quite recently in the Studio Series, so I don't really know what is going to be different with this one other than, you know, not being a convertible. And then Dino. Dino, I think, is very important. It's one that's never been made, and it's a character that everyone wants. This is a big thumbs up for me. And then Bumblebee, which we've had a million times. If they do something interesting with the Sam figure and really make it, like a good figure, then that would be cool, but it's going to be very basic, is my prediction at least. But there you go, that's my thoughts on these new Studio Series figures that are coming out. As far as which ones I plan to get, that's only going to be told within seeing the actual figures. Most likely I won't get many of these, to be honest. I'm almost 100% I'll get Dino, unless for some reason it just looks terrible. And then I might get Sideswipe, and I'll probably get Jolt. But I'll probably skip Bumblebee, Grindr, and then as far as the animated figures, just because I don't really collect that line, I'd probably skip those as well. But that's my thoughts on the new Transformers Studio Series figures that have been announced and, well, not quite announced, but they've been strongly rumored. I think that it's very likely that these will all come out. And yeah, let me know what you guys think of this series. With how much Revenge of the Fallen they're doing, I'm really hoping that we'll get a Fallen figure. That's a figure that I think desperately needs an update, and it's also a pretty big character, so I'm surprised that they haven't done it yet. But fingers crossed for that in the future. But for now, here's the assortment that we have coming. Let me know what you guys think of it, and thanks so much for watching.